Franklin Clinton never had it easy. Born in South Los Santos in 1988, he grew up without a father, lost his mother to addiction, and was raised by his grandparents. Even then, the streets kept calling. Hustling from a young age, Franklin dreamed of something bigger. By 2013, he was repo'ing cars and chasing quick cash, until a run-in with Michael DeSanta changed everything. But Franklin's story was just getting started. Franklin wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth, or even a plastic one for that matter. He popped into the world in Los Santos back in 1988. His dad was a total deadbeat, apparently a violent guy who took out his frustration on Franklin's mom, then just vanished before Franklin was even born. It's a sad thought, but maybe that's why his mom fell into a cocaine addiction, trying to escape her own pain. And tragically, that addiction eventually took her life when Franklin was just a little kid. Can you imagine losing your mom so young and knowing she was struggling like that? It's a heavy start for anyone. After that, Franklin went to live with his grandparents. His grandma apparently spoiled him rotten, but even with all that love, Franklin had that street hustler spark in him. One of his first ventures was selling cigarettes with his buddy J.B. Bradshaw. They were raking in the cash, feeling like big shots until his grandpa caught them. It shows Franklin's nature, even as a kid, always looking for a way to make a buck, even if it was a little bit on the wrong side of the tracks. When his grandparents passed away, Franklin and his aunt Denise moved into a house on Forum Drive, left to them by his grandma. He went to Davis High School, where he hung out with his lifelong friends, Lamar Davis and Tanisha Jackson, and his cousin, Tanya Wiggins. But Franklin's school days were short-lived. He got kicked out for slugging a teacher. Classic Franklin, always acting on impulse. Around this time, he fully embraced the gang life, dealing drugs, jacking cars, and doing small-time bank robberies with Lamar. Their first bank robbery, though, was a bit of a flop. They only got $2,000, and it was useless because a dye pack exploded all over it. He even worked for a local drug dealer named Marcus, who he later ended up killing. Yep, even back then, Franklin wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. Now, about Tanisha. Franklin and Tanisha dated for a while, but she was never really on board with his gangster lifestyle. Her brother died in a gang-related incident, and she was terrified that Franklin's choices would bring harm to her too. So, they broke up. But it wasn't a clean break. They had a long history, tons of mutual friends, and neither of them really wanted to move on completely. Tanisha wanted to stay friends, and Franklin always held on to the hope that they'd get back together. She ended up finding someone else, a brain surgeon named Jaden, who represented the stability and security she craved, a world away from the chaos Franklin was still living in. She even moved in with him. Franklin, though, he just couldn't let it go. You see it in the game. He's always trying to impress her, calling her after his first big heist, thinking maybe money would change her mind. Lamar even calls him out on it, saying Franklin's only trying to improve his life to win Tanisha back. It's pretty clear he was hung up on her. Fast forward to 2013, and Franklin and Lamar were working for a shady Armenian car salesman named Simeon Yetarian. Simeon was basically a loan shark, selling cars to people who couldn't afford them, and when they inevitably missed payments, Franklin and Lamar would go repossess the cars. This is where Franklin's story in GTA 5 really kicks off. So, we first see Franklin on a repo job with Lamar, and guess who they bump into? None other than Michael DeSanta, though they don't know it at the time. Michael, completely by accident, points them right to the car they're supposed to be taking. Later, Simeon sends them to repossess a motorcycle from a Vagos gang area. Things go downhill real quick. Lamar pulls a gun, a shootout starts, and they barely escape. Lamar, being Lamar, just takes the bike for himself, and Simeon blames Franklin. This gets Franklin fired. But then Michael, whose son Jimmy bought a car from Simeon and was being repoed, was actually hiding in the back seat when Franklin came for it. Michael pulls a gun on Franklin and makes him drive the car right through Simeon's dealership window. Michael even pays Franklin for a job well done. After losing his job, Franklin remembers Michael's casual offer of a drink, and he goes to find him. This is where their strange but effective partnership begins. Franklin helps Michael rescue Jimmy Jimmy from his stolen yacht, and then, in a fit of rage, Michael and Franklin chase Amanda's tennis coach to a house in Vinewood Hills. Thinking it's the coach's place, they pull down the deck with a truck, completely destroying it. Only problem? It wasn't the coach's house. It belonged to Martin Madrazo, a seriously dangerous drug lord. Martin shows up at Michael's house, baseball bat in hand, demanding $2.5 million for the damage. This forces Michael back into the crime game, and Franklin is right there with him. Meanwhile, Lamar drags Franklin into a harebrained scheme to kidnap a Bala gang member named D. They chase him through the streets, and with the help of Franklin's dog, Chop, they manage to catch him. But Lamar, being an idiot, accidentally gives away their location to the police while on his phone, forcing them to let D go. And then, just as things couldn't get more complicated, Stretch gets out of prison. Stretch, an older gang member, immediately clashes with Franklin. It's clear there's bad blood from way back, even before the game starts. Franklin sees gang life as a way out, a stepping stone, but Stretch believes in the old ways, the hierarchy, the idea that older members deserve a cut of everything younger guys make. Franklin wants to be a leader, to build something new, even forming his own small group called the Forum Gangsters. Stretch sees this as disrespectful, constantly hounding Franklin for a cut of his new earnings, even when Franklin's working with Michael and Trevor. The beef with Stretch isn't just about money or respect, though. It blows up when Stretch sets up a drug deal with some Balas, which turns out to be an ambush. Stretch kills D, and the trio barely escape. Franklin is furious, realizing Stretch is bad news. Though Franklin is starting to understand, Stretch isn't just out to make money. He sees Lamar and Franklin as possible threats as part of his long-term plan to keep the gangs in line. Franklin is pulled deeper into Michael's world, meeting Trevor Phillips and Lester Crest, Michael's old partners in crime. Franklin accepts Michael's offer to join the Evangelico jewelry store heist, seeing it as his first real big score, a chance to prove himself. The heist is a success, and Franklin gets his cut, a taste of real money. He starts to distance himself from the families, which irritates Lamar and his aunt Denise, who constantly nag him about his disloyalty. Franklin just wants to get out, to make something of himself. One day, Trevor shows up at Franklin's house, uninvited. Lamar, being the loudmouth, tells Trevor about a drug deal Stretch arranged with the Balas. Trevor, naturally, is all in. The three of them, with Chop tagging along, head to Grove Street. Lamar is about to buy a brick of cocaine, but Trevor, with his bizarre genius, snatches it and realizes it's fake, just drywall. A massive shootout starts, and they're forced to fight their way out, eventually escaping on jet skis in the storm drain. During this chaos, Franklin tells Lamar that he thinks Stretch set them up, and honestly, it wouldn't be the last time Stretch pulled something like that. The trio then attempts to steal an experimental superweapon from a private security company called Merryweather. They succeed, but Lester wisely tells them to put it back. Taking something that powerful would make them targets of every government agency on the planet. Even Trevor, after some convincing, agrees it's not worth it. Franklin's reputation starts to grow. He gets employed by the eccentric billionaire Devin Weston, who wants him, Trevor, Michael, and later Lamar to steal some rare cars. He also takes on assassination jobs for Lester, which eventually leads him to move into a swanky new mansion in Vinewood Hills, a huge upgrade from his old place on Forum Drive. During this time, Michael and Trevor are laying low after a job for Martin Madrazo went sideways. Franklin, trying to find them, accidentally stumbles into a showdown with the remaining O'Neill brothers, who are out for revenge on Trevor. Franklin, Michael, and Trevor team up to take them down in a dramatic chase through Raton Canyon, ending with Chop helping Franklin track down the last O'Neill brother. Franklin, Michael, and Trevor then pull off a daring bank robbery in Blaine County, hitting a corrupt bank full of dirty cop money. They get away with millions, though a chunk of it goes to Steve Haynes and Dave Norton, the crooked FIB agents who are blackmailing Michael. Things get complicated with Devin Weston. Lamar steals the last car on Devin's list, and Franklin, Lamar, and Trevor deliver the cars. But Devin, being a slimy weasel, refuses to pay them, promising to invest their money instead. This infuriates them all. Then, the big one. Franklin discovers Michael has been kidnapped by the Los Santos triads while he was in Ludendorff. He tries to get Trevor's help, but Trevor, having just realized Michael betrayed him years ago, refuses. So Franklin, showing his loyalty and courage, goes alone to rescue Michael from a slaughterhouse warehouse. This is where he learns that Michael has been secretly working with the FIB to get out of the game, distancing himself from Trevor. Michael and Franklin are forced to do one more job for Steve Haynes, breaking into the FIB building to retrieve incriminating evidence. They succeed, celebrating their victory with Lester. But the calm doesn't last long. Franklin's ex, Tanisha, shows up at his door, frantic. Stretch, that snake, has set Lamar up again with a huge group of ballas, holding him hostage at the Paleto Forest sawmill. Franklin, despite his frustrations with Lamar's stubbornness and inability to change, can't abandon his lifelong friend. He calls Michael and Trevor for backup, and the three of them, an unlikely but powerful team, storm the sawmill, taking down the ballas and rescuing Lamar. On the way home, Franklin and Lamar have a heart-to-heart, arguing about Franklin always bailing Lamar out and Lamar feeling abandoned. They both agree that Stretch probably sold out to the ballas while in prison. Franklin gives Lamar some tough love, telling him to clean up his act and get a real job. Right after dropping off Lamar, Franklin is cornered by Steve Haynes and Dave Norton. They tell him to kill Trevor, claiming he's a liability. Franklin tries to get them to make Michael do it, but Norton explains that Trevor doesn't trust Michael anymore. This puts Franklin in an impossible position, caught between two powerful groups and his complicated friendships. The trio then pulls off their biggest heist yet, the Union Depository, making off with millions in gold. They're at the top of their game, but the choices are about to get even harder. After the heist, Franklin is visited by Devin Weston, who orders him to kill Michael. Devin is furious because Michael caused the death of his lawyer, messed with his movie, and even tried to have his family killed. So Franklin is given three options: kill Trevor, kill Michael, or try to save them both. This is the moment of truth for Franklin, where all his loyalties and struggles come to a head. Option A, kill Trevor. Franklin meets Trevor at an oil field. Trevor, still naive about the meeting, is reminiscing about his friendship with Franklin, even as he complains about Michael. But Franklin, with a heavy heart, pulls a gun on him. Trevor is shocked, feeling utterly betrayed. He takes off in his truck, with Franklin hot on his tail. Franklin calls Michael for help, who eventually rams Trevor's truck, causing him to crash into a gas tank. Trevor, covered in gasoline, crawls out, cursing them both. Franklin or Michael shoots the gas, and Trevor burns to death in a fiery explosion. It's a brutal ending for Trevor, and Franklin and Michael try to justify it by saying his craziness led to his demise. Afterwards, Franklin calls Haynes, who agrees to take care of Devin Weston, but tells Franklin never to contact him again. Franklin and Michael's friendship is tense because of what they did, but they still hang out and keep saying they made the right choice. Jimmy, Michael's son, calls Franklin asking about Trevor, and Franklin lies, saying Steve Haynes' men killed him. Lamar calls, confirming his suspicions about Stretch, and goes into hiding, so he can only hang out at night. Tanisha calls to tell Franklin she's getting married and advises him to stay out of trouble. Lester splits Trevor's cut of the final heist between Franklin and Michael. Despite their shared experience, Michael eventually drifts away from Franklin, feeling indifferent and breaking ties. It's a lonely path for Franklin. Option B, kill Michael. Franklin meets Michael in the desert, pretending he wants to talk about their past, but Michael quickly realizes Franklin plans to kill him. He drives away fast, with Franklin chasing him. They end up at the Palmer-Taylor power station. The chase continues on foot until they reach a high walkway. After a fight, Franklin pushes Michael. Michael hangs on the edge, and Franklin can choose to help or let go. Either way, Michael falls and dies. Franklin feels heartbroken and full of regret. He calls Lamar, hoping they're still friends. He also calls Devin Weston, who says Haynes is already dead and Franklin is no longer useful. Trevor sends an email asking if Franklin killed Michael. Franklin says no, but Trevor doesn't believe him and tells him to stay away. If they meet, Trevor will be angry, saying Michael was better than Franklin and he would have forgiven him. Jimmy calls Franklin, first asking about his dad, then realizing what happened. He ends the friendship. Amanda, Michael's wife, also sends an email blaming Franklin and telling him to stay away. Lamar hides from Stretch and only goes out at night. Tanisha calls and says she's married now, and she tells Franklin to stay stay out of trouble. Lester gives Michael's share of the heist to his family, so Franklin and Trevor get nothing. This ending leaves Franklin alone, full of guilt and with fewer people in his life. Option C, the third way, save them both. This is the, quote, good ending. Franklin doesn't want to kill either friend, so he asks Lester for help. Lester makes a plan to get rid of all their enemies at once. They trick Devin Weston and Steve Haynes into thinking the gold is at a foundry. Franklin brings in Lamar, who stays outside as a lookout. Inside, Franklin finds Michael and Trevor arguing again, but he gets them to work together one last time. As agents from Merryweather and the FIB arrive, the three of them fight and win a huge gun battle. After the fight, Lester gives them the locations of their enemies. Trevor goes to kill Steve Haynes. Michael goes to kill Stretch. Franklin goes to kill Wei Chang. They each kill someone else's enemy, which helps hide their tracks. Later, the three meet again. They have kidnapped Devin Weston in his own car. Franklin smiles and says, "My bad, homie. I picked C. Ain't that a bitch?" They make fun of Devin and push his car off Mount Chiliad. It falls and explodes in the water. It's a fitting end for the greedy billionaire. After that, they agree to stop doing crimes but stay friends. As a surprise, the CEO of Merryweather thanks Franklin for killing Devin because it helped him buy back company shares cheaper. Tanisha still calls to say she's getting married and reminds Franklin to stay out of trouble. It's a little sad, but now that their enemies are gone, Franklin, Michael, and Trevor can live free and keep their friendships. Franklin finally takes control of his life and grows as a person. So, what happens to Franklin after the main story of GTA 5? If you played the contract update in GTA Online, you'll know Franklin is doing really well, and it's a big upgrade. He got a huge payout from the Union Depository heist, somewhere between $9 million and $42 million, based on how you played. He used that money wisely, making good investments and going straight. Here's the big news. Even though Tanisha married Jaden, the brain surgeon, at the end of GTA 5, things didn't last. At some point, they got divorced and Tanisha got back with Franklin. Yes, that really happened. They got married, she moved into his fancy house on Wispy Mound Drive, and they started a family. If you visit his house in GTA Online, you'll see kids' toys, a backyard slide, and a sign that says, The Clintons. Their kids are even old enough to be in school. Lamar was right all along, telling Franklin to stick with Tanisha. It's like Tanisha saw that her stable life with Jaden wasn't what she truly wanted, and Franklin, now grown up and successful, became the guy she needed. Some of her social media posts even hinted at how different she and Jaden were. She never fully left her old life, even after marrying him. In 2021, Franklin becomes a real businessman, starting F. Clinton and Partner, a celebrity solutions agency for the rich and famous in Vinewood. Basically, he helps rich people with their problems, from stolen stuff to keeping secrets quiet. He brings in Imani, the smart daughter of an old friend, and even lets Lamar join the business, even though Lamar still does wild stuff. And yes, Chop is still around, now old but still loyal. Franklin even stays in touch with Michael, and a guard at his office mentions turning away Trevor, showing he's still linked to his old friends, even if they're not working together like before. The main story of The Contract is about Franklin helping Dr. Dre. Yes, the real Dr. Dre. Dre's phone with unreleased music on it was stolen. Franklin meets Dre at a golf course, and after some typical rich people drama, Franklin and the GTA Online protagonists, that's you, end up crashing into two annoying golfers with golf carts. It's a wild but funny start to a big new job. Franklin and Imani go after three people who played Dre's stolen tracks: a Vagos game member, a Triad member, and a crypto billionaire. They take care of all of them, get the music back, and finally find out who still has Dre's phone: Johnny Guns, a producer with a long fight with Dre. Franklin and the GTA Online protagonist help Dre deal with Johnny's private army and finally catch Johnny so Dre can face him. The Contract also brings in short trips where we see more of Franklin and Lamar's friendship. DJ Pooh invites them and the GTA Online protagonist to Dr. Dre's studio. Lamar tries to rap and Franklin gets high with the protagonist. When Lamar tries to smoke too, Franklin tells him Tanisha won't like it, hinting that they're still married. Lamar, always chasing wild ideas, starts a weed business called LD Organics. He pulls Franklin into his crazy ideas, like raiding Vagos warehouses, or trying to make a deal with a strange actor from the Epsilon program, Jimmy Boston. Franklin, now smarter and more careful, warns Lamar about the dangers of the Vinewood crowd and how tricky they can be. One of the funniest parts is when Lamar builds a van that's made of weed. Franklin asks, "How you gonna smoke it if it's part of the van?" Classic moment. They try to get Jimmy Boston to promote the brand, but it all falls apart when the Vagos show up, leading to a big shootout. On the way back, the weed van starts burning in the sun, and they both get really high. Lamar, in a wild idea, drives it to a nightclub. The crowd smells the burning weed and starts cheering for LD Organics. It's messy, but it works. Franklin, always the one thinking ahead, says he has to get home to Tanisha. Lamar tries one time to pull Franklin in, offering him an internship, but Franklin just walks off like a boss. Most recently, in late 2023, Franklin was invited by DJ Pooh to the 10th anniversary party of the West Coast Classics at a nightclub hosted by Dom Funk. As part of the radio station's promo, DJ Pooh gave out media sticks with a recorded mix of Dom Funk's Even the Score for people who missed the event. At the 20-minute mark of the mix, Franklin tries to give a shout out to DJ Pooh on the mic, but Lamar grabs it from him, upset that Franklin is always winning and tries to give a shout out too. Franklin interrupts him and Dom Funk ends up calling nightclub security to break up their fight over the mic. So, while Franklin has grown and become successful, some things never change, especially his relationship with Lamar. If you want to see more stories like this, click the video on screen now.